Now don't think I'm going to go preaching a sermon on your works will save you, because you're just flat out wrong. There's two scriptures for today for our sermon series on the solas. And the other one was Romans, which was the prayer, not the prayer confession, but the assurance of forgiveness. And it reminds us that it is by our faith that we are saved. So now we're in week 2 of our sermon series on the solas, celebrating the 500th year since the Reformation. And I'm not sure what Pastor Gary told you all last week, but we stand this year, 500 years out from a moment in time, an action that changed the course of history, not just as churchgoers, but as human beings in this world. 500 years ago, a guy named Luther nailed 95 theses to a door. Now, everybody thinks like this is some bold, crazy thing that he did. This is how you debated back then. You had a problem with someone, you took and you tacked your problems on their door, and you said, let's have a debate about what it is. He had a problem with the way the church was doing things. He had 95 problems with the way the church was doing things. You have to remember that Luther was a monk. Luther was a Catholic monk. He was a brilliant scholar. And what happened to him was he was sitting down, interpreting Scripture and reading Scripture and translating it, and he went, wait a second. Paul tells us that we're saved by faith, saved by the faith of Jesus Christ and faith in Jesus Christ. How does that work with what the church is doing now? See, the church was selling indulgences. The church was in a really sweet get-rich-quick scheme. So they convinced Matt here. They said, Matt, I know that your uncle, who you love dearly, has died, and he was a shady character. But if you buy this here thing, you want it? It'll get your uncle into heaven, okay? And Matt goes, that sounds like a good idea. I really want uncle to go to heaven. And they were killing it. The people were buying these indulgences and these things, and they were trying to buy their salvation. And Luther goes, no, that's not how it works. We're not saved by what we can buy or what we can do, but we're saved by our faith. We're saved by what God has already done for us, not by what we're going to do. And so this religion begins to be pushed and pressed. And now a religion, which is a scary term this day and age, is an organization of an organized collection of beliefs, cultural systems, or worldviews that relate humanity to an order of existence. Religions have narratives and symbols and sacred histories that aim to explain the meaning of life, the origin of life, and the universe itself. A collection of beliefs, a culture that relates to that collection of beliefs. And if that collection of beliefs gets twisted, gets morphed, I believe that there is a heaven. I believe that I really would like to go there as this life comes to an end. I really would like for my friends and family, I would like for all you to go there when your time comes. And so the church found, unfortunately, a way to exploit the people in that collection of beliefs. They used the beliefs to manipulate. And we've been setting a collection of beliefs in our church system for a long time, 500 years. Actually longer, let's be honest. We'll say 2,000 years. Since Jesus came and said, how you guys are doing it now? Probably not the best way to do it. From the Council of Nicaea to Luther to the Scots Confession to Heidelberg, which we'll use today as our confession, to 1985 when one of Bethany and I's favorite professors helped write what's called the Brief Statement of Faith in the Presbyterian Church, to the newly adopted confession that we picked up called the Belhar Confession, which comes out of South Africa and apartheid. We've been formulating systems of beliefs, systems of faith, systems of words, systems of how we rightly believe. And see, For some people, for many, that's why they shy away from religion. Because it's simply about dogmatism. I don't know if that's a word. It's about dogmatics, about right belief. That's all it is. And then that gets us into fights. We fight over how we believe rightly, what we believe. Well, Baptists, they got to fully immerse the person. Baby, sprinkle that on there. That's the only way to do baptism. And we fight about it. Oh my goodness, in the South, I mean, you would fight about it. And you'd have parents go, well, my kid's not being sprinkled. When they choose to be baptized, we got to put them in the water. And I mean in the water. Alligator-infested water. Ask me about it sometime. And we get in fights over dogmatics. About what we would call faith. My faith is better than your faith. My faith is more right. About doctrine. About how we say the Apostles' Creed. Whether we go to hell or not. But James calls us out of that. James says, right belief and right thoughts and faith, they're good. But it's so much more. James is very clear on this issue. You can believe rightly all you want, whatever that is. You can believe in Jesus Christ all you want. But if what you do on a daily basis does not reflect that, it is an absolute waste of time, your belief is. I'm not meddling. It's in the Bible. Okay? But if our lives don't reflect what we say we believe, if we confess on a daily basis or weekly basis that Jesus sat with the outcasts, but yet we ignore the people who we consider outcasts, if we say weekly that we believe Jesus fed 5,000 people with 2 loaves and some fish, or whatever it is, 5 loaves and some fish. It's been a long day. But we don't feed the hungry? Our dogmatism has to be matched with praxis, our practices. And I think as Luther sat there and translated, and he read that scripture, he understood this. He understood that we are saved by grace, that we pull that faith in. We accept that faith. We accept who Jesus Christ is. But he also knew that you couldn't just buy your way in. I think this is where Luther's coming from. This is where it hit Luther hard. He said, you guys are missing the point, my brothers and sisters. I don't think he ever wanted a whole denomination or new religion, not new religion, denomination started after him. And in fact, I think that was the last thing he ever wanted. But he said, we've got to do right. And that means we've got to do right by the people. Which sparks a movement. A movement that brings in a guy named John Calvin. And I don't agree with this guy on everything, but I really like most of what he said. And we get so many fun names like Heinrich Zwingli, Schleiermacher, good German, and fantastic names. But these men and their women, Teresa of Avila, these men and women said, I believe this. And I've got to live it. And the way it's happening now, we are not living it. And so we have to live it. Luther said, I believe that we are justified by grace through faith. That's right there in the Bible. We're not living it. We're trying to buy our way in. And unfortunately, brothers and sisters, we can't save ourselves. If it was that easy, we'd all just cut a check, call it a day, and move on, right? But we can't. Our works don't save us. James gets a little on the edge there. He really starts to teeter and step over the line, I think. Our Our works don't save us. But it's the works that are displayed through our faith that we have come to know through the grace of Jesus Christ. That grace saves us, and we respond through a faith and then a works. We respond through belief and works. They're not mutually exclusive. I believe when we say faith, too often we say what we believe. I think when we say faith, we should be saying, how do you believe? In what ways do you believe? Okay, I have faith in Jesus Christ. Awesome. I can kind of get a laundry list of what you believe in your mind. But works and faith are never separated. They flow together. Karl Barth would say they're in a dialectic relationship. I like to use big words today. It means they can never be unbound from one another. What we believe can never be separated from how we live. Never, ever separated. And when they are separated, when we jump into a totally works-based belief system, we are going to be sorely disappointed in ourselves. We're going to stumble in here every Sunday and go, man, I am the worst. But if we're only in a dogmatic belief system, the world's never going to know what we believe. They're just going to hear us saying a bunch of stuff. Actions always speak louder than words. Luther knew this, that dogmatics and practice, they're woven together. And without each other, without works, faith is dead, or dogmatics. And without that belief, works are just there. I think it's bigger. People can do good things for other people without faith. I believe that. I've seen it. I've seen plenty of my atheist brothers and sisters go give blood, go feed the hungry. But I know that there is something bigger out there. And I know when I go give blood and when I feed the hungry, that where it comes from is because I have experienced a grace and a hope and a new life that is beyond words and measure. And that's a gift. The grace and the new life and that hope that's been given to us all, that's a gift that we should give to the whole world. Faith is the most profound gift we can get. So while we were on Long Island with Bethany's family, I mostly babysat, which was totally fine because she's got really adorable little cousins. And we had a blast. Two of them, Graham and Georgiana, we hung out the whole time. But let's be honest, it was both because they were at my own maturity level. So last Sunday, Graham and LB and I were sitting watching cartoons. I have no idea how that happened. I just ended up there. Graham is jumping on my face and climbing all over me. And they looked at me and they said, hey, can we go down to the beach and look for beach glass and climb on rocks? Because her family has this great property right on the Sound in Long Island. And I said, sure, I'll take you guys down. And so we go down, and Graham, who's all of 4, not yet 5, and LB, who's 10 or 11, climbing the big rocks and finding sea glass, and we're having a great time, and we're tromping around. We look back, and there's Graham's grandmother, Susan, and his little sister, Georgiana, and LB's sister, and then Sarah, my sister-in-law. And they're all kind of walking towards us, and we're walking along, and Graham finds this really great rock, just like perfectly round, and he runs up and he's like, as every little boy does, a rock. I found a rock. Okay, the beach is not a sandy beach, it's a rocky beach. So it's not like magnificence that he found a rock. But he did find a really great, perfectly round rock, and Susan grabs it and she goes, oh, this is a great rock. This would make an excellent turtle. And at this point, I'm like, turtle? That's a rock. And she said, this will make such a great turtle. And of course, Graham looks at her, and LB looks at her, and we all kind of look at her turtle. And she says, yeah, my dad who they all call Jaju, which is Polish for grandpa. We got choked up. I knew the guy for like a year and a half, but he was awesome. I even called him Jaju, actually. He used to find rocks, these round rocks. And they find seashells that look like fins. And then they find some beach glass to decorate the shell. And they find another little rock for a head, and they glue it all together. And he did it with his kids and his grandkids, who all kind of live on the same property. And it was cool because in that moment, Susan, see, Jaju was her dad. And I watched her hand down a gift, a tradition, a family gift down to another generation and say, "We make great turtles." That's how faith is handed down. That's how faith is given. That's the kind of gift that faith is. The one that makes you well up inside. The one that you give to your kids because it changed you, or it changed your parents or your grandparents. See, I was given the gift of faith by some loud, obnoxious, chubby kid across the hall from me in college. We were just talking about it last night, actually. It was an amazing gift I've been given. Because, see, I now have this faith that has changed me. It's turned me into a new person. I know a grace and a mercy and a God so intimately that it makes me want to share it. And that faith that now dictates my practices. That gift I was given has changed me so that I can change the world that needs it. To be doers of this word we hear, to be doers of the faith, the gift we've been given. It's a gift I think we should all willfully give. Pass it down to generations. Barb, give it to Pace. Melissa, keep giving it to your kids. On down the line. But we can't just give it to our families. We have to give it to those random strangers we encounter on the streets by living what we believe. Not sharing it, but by living it so people see it, so people know that it is 100% real. I leave you this. I once heard this scripture preached in a sermon. And the pastor told the worshipers there that they were the sermon that morning. He dismissed us, all of us, and told us to go to the community and look after the distressed, and put to practice, and to be the sermon that day. Give the gift. Live the gift. Take this faith that you get every single day, that you know to be true, and share it. Give it. Don't hold back, because God has never once held back for any of you, any of us.